here with Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, who is a millennial. Everyone should know that because it's always what millennials do we have up here? We have Sara Jacobs right here, California girl like myself. Welcome to What the Heck is Going On. So let's talk what the heck is going on. The budget.
The budget. What the heck is going on? Yeah, I mean, look, the Republicans passed this one big budget bill in the middle of the night, and obviously didn't have time to read any of it because now we're seeing a bunch of them come out against the very bill that they voted for. Scott Perry, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Freedom Caucus. We even saw Elon Musk say that it was outrageous abomination or something like that, which we've been trying to tell them because it's a really bad bill. Like, the bill will kick 14 million people off of their health care. It will make 18 million people go hungry because they won't have access to food assistance. Like, that's the things that we're talking about in this bill.
Absolutely. And considering that Republicans will get affected by this, Republican voters, not just Democrat voters, what do you say to a Republican voter who thought Marjorie Taylor Greene has my back, she's going to read this bill, find out she hasn't even read the bill? Isn't that your job? I want to make sure.
Yeah, no, it's literally our job to know what we're voting on. Yes. In their defense, it's a very big bill and they didn't have any time to read it, which is why they probably shouldn't have pushed it through in the middle of the night when no one was watching. But if you're like a Republican voter or any voter and you agree that this is a very bad bill, there's still time to stop it. The Senate for the next few weeks will be working on it. And so it's important that you make your voice heard.
Absolutely. So the Senate, because it was a budget reconciliation, you only need a simple majority.
That's right. Only 50 votes.
50 votes, which, there's rumors they don't have the votes, but what should constituents in your own district or be doing right now to make this stop?
Yeah, so look, I think the real human stories are the most important thing, right? Like, we in DC talk about trillions of dollars and it feels like monopoly money to people. And then we talk about this like acronym soup of programs that feel just like very far away. But the reality is we're talking about real human lives. And the more that we can share those real human stories, the more I'm hoping these senators will realize that it is their constituents who are going to get kicked off their health care, their constituents who are going to go hungry, and that they have the ability to stop this.
Absolutely. Do you have a story that one of your constituents has called recently?
Yeah, absolutely. I have many stories. Actually, I've been traveling around my district talking to people about what these cuts are going to mean, but I'll give you one. I was talking to a man who got hurt on the job. Okay. And because he literally couldn't afford the rehab, he wouldn't have been able to go back to work ever unless he'd had Medicaid. And Medicaid is the only reason that he was able to get the healthcare he needed in order to go back to work, which is what Republicans say they want people to do. Without Medicaid, he would have been unable to work.
Right.
I talked to another family. There's this 5-year-old girl, Delilah. She's so lovely. We were having this press conference and she just kept like dancing around. And Delilah has like tons of medical appointments every month. She has a lot of different health conditions. And Medicaid is literally the only reason she's able to survive. We're talking about little kids like Delilah when we're talking about who's getting kicked off of their health care.
Right. 40 million children in America rely on Medicaid. I was a kid who had Medicaid insurance. My parents worked full time. There's a theory that, get a job, that's their work requirements, right? Which are not working in Arkansas or Georgia, which has those work requirements for Medicaid. It's not working. It's just less people on Medicaid.
Let's talk about what these work requirements actually mean.
Yes.
What they mean is that when you already have a full-time job and are trying to raise your kids, you then have to go fill out tons and tons of paperwork for the government to prove that you have this job in order to get the assistance you need, taking time out of your job or taking care of your kids in order to get this assistance. It really is just about more red tape. It actually does not increase workforce participation at all.
Right, which they've seen in Arkansas and Georgia.
That's right.
It's not at all whatsoever.
No.
It's very interesting. what do you think the Republicans' goal? Because they keep saying it's to cut the budget, but it's going to add $2.1 trillion, I believe.
Actually, the CBO score came out today, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office score today, and it said it's going to add $2.4 trillion to the deficit.
Okay.
Yes, $2.4 trillion. I'm like, if someone ever tells me that the Republicans are the parties of fiscal responsibility again, I'm going to lose my effing mind because they want to add $2.4 trillion to the deficit in order to cut taxes for their wealthy benefactors and big corporations and kick millions of people off their health care and food assistance that they need. That's what we're talking about. They're literally doing this because they want to give tax breaks to the wealthy and big corporations. That's why they're doing all of this.
Right, absolutely. And they're asking for an increase in the debt ceiling, which people forget about, but that's important because if you want to lower, then you're not asking for an increase in the debt ceiling. So there is a way to do this. In the 90s, President Clinton did it by, he made really hard cuts, and that's not what's happening here.
That's not what's happening. And look, I'm actually all for fiscal responsibility.
Right.
I'm a millennial, right? Our generation will be the ones dealing with this huge debt they're leaving us, right? But let's talk about what fiscal responsibility actually means. If you talk to any business owner, they will tell you that they will take on a loan, they will take on debt in order to make investments that will grow their business in the future, right? That's what you take on debt for. So, okay, if we're taking on debt to make investments, why don't we invest in quality early child care where the US government would actually save $6 for every $1 we invest because you have the entire life of that kid that they're going to have lower costs for criminal justice, for healthcare, not to mention higher tax revenues because they've had this quality early child care intervention. Why don't we invest in preventative medicine instead of cutting it, where the federal government has a $12 return for every $1 we invest because we are otherwise paying for it in emergency care that is much more expensive. Let's actually talk about fiscal responsibility and what the best return on investment would be. It is definitely not what the Republicans are doing right now.
Definitely not, because I remember President Clinton, he left us a surplus. We're not getting a surplus, we're getting added to the deficit, and there's a big difference there.
There's a big difference, and if you look at what's contributed to the debt, it has been primarily the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Bush tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, and then the pandemic. And so, President Clinton left us a surplus, and then President Bush cut taxes, started wars, Trump cut taxes more, and the wars kept going. And then there was a global pandemic, and now we're going to have something like a $14 trillion deficit debt that our generation is going to be responsible for, also that rich people and big corporations can have a bigger tax cut.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, Elon Musk now apparently he's against it. So, if Elon's against it,
maybe it's not a big enough tax cut for him. I don't know.
Interesting. Any last words to people out there who feel helpless because they're hearing all these numbers, they're hearing all these things? I constantly say, call your senator. So maybe you have a little more weight than I do.
So here's the thing. We are not helpless, and none of this is inevitable. And in fact, we have seen that public pressure really works. And so keep making your voice heard. Keep telling those real human stories. Talk to your friends and neighbors. If you live in, I represent California, our senators are going to do the right thing. If you like me live in a state like California where you're not worried about your senators, you can call and thank them. That's always nice. But call your friends who live in other places. Talk to them about the real human impact so that they can make their voice heard, right? The more we're raising our voice, the more we're telling these stories. I do think that we're going to be able to stop this.
You do.
I do.
Have faith in that.
I do.
How many short, if you have to wild guess, how many short do you think he's going to be?
Well, they only need to lose 4.
Yeah.
And we've already heard Senator Collins say she's not in favor. Now,
well, okay, all right.
But look, it's always weird when you're on the same side as Josh Hawley, but Josh Hawley thinks these Medicaid cuts are too bad. So I don't know. But what I do know is that the more we make our voice heard, the more we have a chance at stopping this. And that I know it can feel like they don't care what we think, but actually public pressure really, really does work. We've seen that it works.
We saw it with the freezing of the funds.
Exactly.
Absolute. I did an interview with Senator Murray, and she said it made night and day difference.
Absolutely.
So everyone call. It's not just me. She's a congresswoman. Come on. And a millennial. So you got to listen to her.
There you go.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman.